Hey everybody, it's Stuart, and today what I'm going to share with you is something real that happened. It's something that's really on my mind, and I just wanted to get my mind off of it. Yesterday we had a fantastic event. We had a bunch of business owners who came together. They were doing some networking. It was getting to know and really expanding the network. If you're interested, please go down to Launchpad, go sign up for a membership. It's absolutely free. Now, one of the things that happened today was I was getting really ambitious trying to do something, and I couldn't help but notice this myself. I was actually coaching someone who's very ambitious, and he just doesn't learn. In other words, he will just make the same mistakes over and over again. And guess what? I started to realize that that was exactly what I was doing. I was doing this video, and I decided to do a really long video. It was 1 full hour long, and boy, did it take the wind out of me. First, I tried to align the audio. It just didn't work out. Somewhere about 3 hours into this entire video, I realized that I was just losing track of where the audio was actually shifted. And the more I dived into it, the more I tried to repair it, the worse it actually became. And that was because I was trying to map the audio together with the video, and then trying to map all of that to the screen recording that I took live. Man, it took a lot out of me. And all I wanted to say is this. For many of us, we end up in a situation where things just seem to be going awry. I can't help it. I've got to go and redo it. It's going to be another 3 to 4 hours worth of work just trying to go through that entire 1 hour series and clip, which I believe only I can do because there are certain segments where it's going to get really complex if I were to outsource it, and it wouldn't be fair for them to, get this work done. So I decided that I will have to come clean because this is a journey that I'm walking, right? This is a mindset of actually doing work. So what happened was one of my clients called me and we had a talk regarding the idea behind mindset. And one of the challenges I think that most of us encounter is the issue of things going wrong. So this client was quite worried that he would lose his job, things won't go his way. And I totally understood that this is the situation that actually happens. It's a VUCA world. We're going to experience a whole range of different challenges and problems in life. But at the same time, I couldn't help but feel a little bit frustrated. Not frustrated because of anything else. I just felt frustrated that the answer was actually right in front of him, which was, if you're afraid, have a hedging bet. Go and find another business that you can work with. Find a series of people, go hustle, go prove yourself. But that wasn't what he was doing. He was holding himself back. And by holding yourself back, what happens? You don't put yourself in front of other people. I know I've talked about this a lot before. So the frustration happened when I was looking at myself and I said, how did I get to this stage? How did I get to the stage where I'm not frustrated by, or I'm not afraid of losing a job? And whenever something happens, I will be able to find some income somewhere. And it dawned on me that it was quite a difference in my way of thinking. I would always choose to do something. I'll make a mistake, I'll learn from it, and then I'll move forward. Sometimes I had to make it twice, but then I wouldn't make that mistake again. With every mistake, if it's not integrated within your system of improvement and reflection, it's just not going to help you. So another client came to me and he was not able to learn his previous lessons. So I taught him a method of reflection, which I frequently use. I take a look at what I do. I realize it's not where it's going. I know I'm frustrated. I take a break. And I know that forcing the issue is just going to make things worse. How do I know this? Well, there are many times where I've tried to do something, whether it's writing a book, whether it's recording a video, whether it's trying to talk to my staff. If it just doesn't work and it seems like the entire day is sort of spoiled, right? Rather than me sitting down and moping about it, there's a tendency for me to do a different kind of ritual. I reset my mind. Now, remember this idea of mind setting? Resetting is also extremely important. You find yourself out of sorts, re-ground yourself, get yourself calibrated, and aim for the best. I think I learned this a long time ago when I was taking my examinations. There were times where I realized that I had finished writing an entire essay and it did not at all answer the question. And I remember I was being extremely frustrated with myself. I was being very frustrated with myself. And it came to a point where I said to myself, I think I'm just ready to give up. However, what happened was I said, I do have 15 minutes. Let's make the best out of this 15 minutes. And the 15 minutes saved me. If I had completely ignored that, I would have gotten a really poor grade that would have dragged down my GPA. Conversely, those 15 minutes actually tipped me over and got me to an A. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do this, right? If you can mitigate this by not being involved in anything and making sure that you make good decisions all the time, please go ahead and do that. But there are always moments where there are the tipping point. There are moments of trials, right? You encounter these tribulations, you have to find some way over it. So here's my formula, and I highly recommend this for all of you. Number one, if you know that things are going wrong, take a step back, ground yourself. The ability for you to get grounded is almost everything. It puts you into the right state, it gets you centered, and it enables you to move forward. So that's number one. Number two, think about why things didn't go your way. Now, why did my 1 hour video go wrong? I know exactly why. It's because I tried to treat it as if it were a 10-minute or a 15-minute video, but it wasn't. And therefore, I underestimated that entire video. It was terrible. So one of the things that I have to do is to calibrate between a short video and a really long video and not try to miss the deadline for my video productions. What was even worse was that when I was doing this long video, I thought I could do it and I could do my audience a favor. Unfortunately, I was not doing my audience a favor by being unsystematic and doing something that was not tested before. I mean, I've done long videos before, but those were crappy looking ones, and I didn't want to put my audience through that. So what I decided to do was really go incisive, and boy, did I lose time. That particular video, I must have lost 2 days. I started editing it yesterday, and even up to this evening, it's just not done. And I wouldn't blame anybody for it. In fact, the most important thing that I've learned is that when embarking on something that looks similar, but is not the same duration or timing, I cannot go by the previous experience that I had. So it also alludes to my timeline of events. Sometimes I can do things really, really fast, but man, this is Friday the 13th. And I do believe that sometimes the bad juju does get to you. You know, some days you just make it really well. Some days are just terrible. I won't say that today was terrible. I did meet my client. A couple of days back, I did meet another client, and they gave me the material for this. So on the verge of giving up, being extremely frightened, wondering whether or not I can meet the deadline, I had to ground myself, take a step back, ask myself what went wrong. Those were the two things. The third thing I will have to do is now set a new goal. I know that there are certain things that are non-negotiable. For example, when I promise that I'll come up with a video a day, new videos daily, it means that I must come up with new videos daily, right? So here's the stuff that I've got. I need to make it happen, and I will make it happen. Even if I'm slightly late, I'll just make it happen. So those are the three things. I'll bend back to the goal that I need to accomplish and then push that out. Now, how do I do that? The third step is broken into several parts. The first one is making sure that I think very clearly about what I want. And then I need to get into the right state that will get me there. So for most people, they'll do incremental goals. But those incremental goals are only going to benchmark you against doing the same thing in the same way, but maybe with a little bit more effort. I don't like that. I don't like doing that. Instead, if I start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do something completely different. How am I going to make this happen? So I start to think of new ways, better ways to get that done. Although it's a little bit disappointing for me to not be able to produce what I want, the more I let that get the better of me, the more it's likely that I will cycle back, take a step back, and avoid moving forward. That's probably the last thing you want to practice. In my opinion, I think practicing moving forward is always the best thing. And the only way to do that is to align your head, heart, and body. So what do I mean? I gave this advice to one of my clients yesterday, and I said, in order for you to move forward, if you've never gotten into the habit of moving forward, and you're constantly fearful, anxious, not wanting to move, fearing that if you move forward, it's going to cost you something. If that's the case, then what you ought to do is to take the moment to practice something that is about moving forward. It could be just simply going to walk on the treadmill, That's a way, a metaphor for your body to recognize that you're moving forward. Another one is to tilt your body forward, as if you're ready for a sprint, or as if you're in a stance ready to take a blow from a karate opponent. Now, the reason why you want to do this is to prime your body, right? To move forward, keep moving forward. If this happens, what's the next step? Whenever you're in a novel situation, there's no way to detect how to move forward unless you've prepared for it. And if it's completely novel, give yourself a benefit of the doubt. This was quite novel. I never expected myself to get so caught up in this video and get it so badly entangled that I really felt like wanting to just completely give up and say, you know what, let's take a break for today. Instead, what I did was I started to think about ways to come up with a valuable lesson for today. And as much as it seems a little bit trite, I suppose, for some people, you gotta remember that no matter how much a psychologist I am, no matter how much a motivational speaker I am, I've got my bad days, guys. And if you've got bad days and I've got bad days, that's the equalizer. What do you choose to do when those bad days take place? Do you choose to suddenly take a step back and decide to give up and you practice giving up? Or do you decide to do something that will move the needle, that will help you to enhance your abilities in the long run? So I choose almost every day to pay attention to my central tenets of elevating society beyond suffering. But you know what? I gotta elevate myself beyond that suffering myself too, right? So I want to be able to practice what I preach, and I want to be able to put it out there. Unfortunately, I know some people won't buy that story, and I know that there's some people who think that I'm either just too perfect or whatever. I'm not. I just recover really quickly. So my take is this: if I want to experience breakage, it's better to do it early now than later. It doesn't really help to have really high expectations but not really knowing what to do. I crave for going after the details, not because I love the details. I actually quite dislike being burdened with details. However, I've come to respect the details. And I know that if I do have that at my fingertips, it helps to prime myself to be more prepared in the future. So there you have it. I've got 3 key things that I typically do in order to get myself out of disappointment, out of anxiety, out of this absolute messed up mind. And it happens for whatever reason. It can be circumstantial, it can be because, something happened in the family or whatever. It is just something that you have to get over. And if you're like my 2 clients, they walked away with the ability to think about certain things differently. However, some of them will take action, some of them won't. I hope that you keep taking action. I know that there are some people who listen to the advice that I give and some people who don't. I hope that you listen to the advice that I give. It comes from practical experience, and I hope that you'll be able to take the advice that I give and hack it so that you'll be able to find something that really fits for yourself. And let me know about it, let the community know about it, so that it becomes an enrichment rather than some best kept secret held by someone else. I know a lot of people will probably think that this is not a big deal. I hope you treat it like a big deal, because by the time everything is said and done and you look back on the ability for you to train yourself to move forward, and you've lost, let's say, 5 years or maybe even 10 years, well, even 1 year, the guy who's trained himself or herself to move forward has 365 days an advantage, and if they've put in twice or 3 times the intensity to do that, they probably have 3 years advantage. And all I want is to be able to see the world understand that if you want to build resiliency in yourself, you got to put yourself under some kind of fire. Put your feet to the fire. I know there are some of you who probably do that and excel way beyond me, and you probably could do far more than I do, right? But at the end of the day, your ability to create the results in your life are based on the mountains that you can climb, the mountains that you can conquer, and the ability for you to do that resides very heavily in those 3 steps. Taking a step back and resetting to get grounded, discovering what went wrong and to be able to close that gap, And finally, to be able to get all the way down to the specific details, set a goal in mind, set a plan, believe you can do it, get those steps, those microscopic steps in place, and then figure out what's the next best thing that you can do. And I believe that everybody will be able to accomplish whatever it is, because the mind here is far more powerful than you know. If you like this video, click like, click subscribe, please share it with someone who might be feeling defeated right now. Maybe this message will go some way in alleviating part of that so that they can bring back hope and then start striving to move forward. In any case, as a community, let's work together to elevate society to a level beyond suffering so that we can take actions for abundance.